Now. So Bill, given everything we just listened to on Beryl and on hurricane preparedness, when exactly is hurricane season?
We're into it now, and it's
Okay.
going to go all the way into November as well. And
Okay.
so it affects the entire United States and
Right.
all through the Atlantic. That's when we are tracking all these storms. So really, we're going to be focusing on what's happening now and what we can kind of see during the course of the months of July and
Okay.
August, when most of the storms form down in the Gulf of Mexico region. They typically go into Texas or Louisiana. Sometimes they'll form also in the Western Caribbean. And they'll follow a similar path, go across the Yucatan Peninsula, go into the Gulf Coast region, and then weaken as they come into land. So
Okay.
that's what we're kind of dealing with right now with Beryl.
Okay, and how often do we really see hurricanes here in New England?
Not that often. And there's a couple of reasons why, some big ones. In fact, when they do start to form out off of the Cape Verde Islands and they come across the Atlantic, and like Beryl was doing
Right.
as Category 5, it stayed in the southern track and it stayed down into the South and Gulf Coast region. But every now and then, you start to see them come towards the United States. And when they do, they tend to run into some problems. That's quite typical. And while they get up towards the mid-Atlantic states, things start to change once they get north of the mid-Atlantic states. And the reason being, hurricanes require ocean water temperatures to be 80 degrees or higher. And up here around New England, they're colder than that. So
Right.
that tends to take the punch out of them and turn them into tropical storms.
Okay.
And curve them off out into the North Atlantic. So that's why we tend to miss them. By the way, a little interesting point. The last hurricane we had in in New England was Hurricane Bob back in 1991.
Okay,
So it's been a
wow.
while.
Yeah,
We're
it
overdue.
has been a while.
We've had tropical storms come in through, and in fact, we had a tropical storm Beryl back in 2006. It scraped through Nantucket, so it
Okay.
just kind of made a little glancing blow. But speaking of Beryl, let's focus down on Texas because that's where everybody's concerned about right now. And here is the very latest coordinates at 11 o'clock this evening, 27.6 north, 95.6 west. Maximum winds have increased to 70 miles per hour. Now, it may make it to a minimal hurricane going to 74, 75 miles per hour prior to making landfall in the next couple of hours, but it has slowed its forward motion because it is starting to scrape against the landfall. So that's what they're going to be dealing with. And you can see the track looks to be coming in right around or just to the east of Port O'Connor and just west of Galveston, Texas. And this is where some of the heaviest rains are going to be. Hurricane warnings are up. Storm surge of as much as 6 feet will be felt right along the coastline. And this is all going to start happening within the next several hours. As we go through tomorrow, it is going to move through eastern Texas and then up through Arkansas and towards the Ohio Valley later in the week, falling apart and just becoming a post-tropical system and eventually sending some rains in our direction. So that's what we're going to be looking at. For eastern Texas, rainfall amounts right along the coastal regions could be as much as 10 to 15 inches in some of the heaviest spots, and then 5 to 10 inches as you get further to the north and head up into towards the Mississippi River Valley. All right, that's what they're dealing with. This is what we've got. A heat advisory will go into effect tomorrow at noontime and stay up until 8 o'clock in the evening for much of northern Rhode Island. So we're going to be talking about, temperatures that are going to feel like they're well into the 90s. I'll show you that in a second. Right now, it's a warm, muggy night. We're into the low and mid 70s across the region. The heat is on down through the south as well, with the dew points all sitting in the 70s along the coastline. So this is the tropical air mass that we're really not going to get out of all week long. There's a stationary frontal boundary dividing that tropical air from the less humid air, if you will, where dew points back in here are in the 60s. It's going to be a while before those 60-degree dew points come back. We're going to be kind of stuck with these 70-plus dew point readings. Now, high pressure will kind of nudge towards us for tomorrow, so we're going to stay dry after some morning fog starts the day off. But as we go into the afternoon, we're really going to crank up the heat, and that's why the heat advisory will be going into effect, as we'll be feeling temperatures that are well into the 90s. Same story on Tuesday, and then Wednesday comes along and we'll start seeing more showers coming in, and the remnants of Beryl will be making their way up through western New York State and heading off to the north, while the storm center itself, what's left of it, goes through the St. Lawrence Seaway and eventually sends some moisture in our direction. But here's what we're looking at as we go through the overnight tonight. There'll be some areas of locally dense fog along the south coast. Temperatures tomorrow morning starting off in the low 70s, heading up to 90 to 92 in the afternoon as the sunshine breaks out. So it is going to be a very muggy day. In fact, this is what it's going to feel like, about 95 degrees. That's the reason for the heat advisory for tomorrow, and even quite hot down in Newport in terms of how it'll feel, around 90. And those dew points are not going to really budge at all throughout the entire week, staying above that 70-degree mark. But what will happen as showers come in to threaten for Wednesday and Thursday, our temperatures start to coast back a little closer to normal where they should be, but it'll still be a very humid stretch. Some thunderstorms possible on Friday. Heading into next weekend, those temperatures start to climb a little bit once again. That